Are we recording?
Okay.
All right, so everybody needs to
There we
consent.
go.
There you
Okay.
go. Great.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, members and guests, to the open forum of the Extension Foundation's National Project Team, Community, Local, and Regional Food Systems. This open forum is being recorded, as we just said, and will be shared on our listserv, our website, and our Facebook page. I'm Katie Himes. I provide media outreach and administrative services for our project team, Community, Local, and Regional Food Systems, or CLRFS. I'm based in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and work part-time at the School of Human Environmental Sciences and the Dale Bumpers College of Agricultural, Food, and Life Sciences at the University of Arkansas. And CLRFS is led by Kathleen. She is a W.K. Kellogg Distinguished Professor of Sustainable Agriculture and the Director of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. And she'll have more to say a little bit later on. The Extension Foundation partners with the Cooperative Extension System, working together to increase system capacity with improving programmatic services. The foundation helps cooperative extension professionals find innovative ways to generate greater local impact through nationally funded programs made possible by member dollars and cooperative agreements with federal agencies and through partnering on state, regional, and national initiatives. The foundation provides professional development to cooperative extension professionals and offers exclusive services to its members. The foundation is an educational partner with over 50 land-grant universities in the United States, but it serves all land-grant universities regardless of membership status. You can learn more about the Extension Foundation by going to their website at extension.org. CLRFS is an Extension Foundation National Project Team. The National Project Teams are multi-institutional, multi-state, and multidisciplinary, bringing the best of the best educational resources to the public. Our CLRFS National Project Team goal is to put knowledge to action. We provide resource materials, share training opportunities, and foster peer interactions for extension educators, community-based practitioners, and individuals involved in work related to building sustainable, equitable, and just food systems. We're comprised of over 400 extension professionals, university researchers, and food systems practitioners from across the country. Some resources for members include our Facebook page and our website. CLRFS receives WordPress support through the Extension Foundation to host our website. Funding for the hosting is supported in part by the New Technologies for Ag Extension Cooperative Agreement with USDA NEFA. Our website is a constant work in progress, and I would like to encourage everyone to contact me with content. I can upload research results or link to your projects and pages, and I'm always looking for good photos for the website. The website address is foodsystems.extension.org. And on Facebook, you can search Community, Local, and Regional Food Systems to find our page and our group. And finally, our current primary resources for members are open forums and the Google group listserv. You can contact me to be added to the Google group if you aren't already a member. Just email me at kdw@uark.edu. And you can email the group at localfoodsystems@groups.extension.org. Before I introduce this quarterly open forum topic and our presenters, we wanted to share some upcoming opportunities. Iowa State's Community Food Systems Annual Event is later this month. It's a one-day event, and I've heard really good things about it. I wish I could go. The University of Florida Food Systems Institute Future of Food Forum is a day-long event in early March, and it's about reducing the carbon footprint of food systems. And then next, while I was looking for events upcoming, I found a program called Food Literacy for All at Michigan State University. It sounds pretty neat, and it's a weekly series of lectures, and all of the lectures are available on the website. There are recordings of them all. So now on with our open forum. Today's topic focuses on programs that help farmers cope with COVID-19 and integrate the role of race equity. So we're happy to have with us today presentations on the growth of the cottage food industry, welcoming and inclusive farmers markets, and working with farmers on farm benchmarking analysis to plan and prepare for future risk. And first up is Cindy Bryson of Nebraska Extension. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you for having me today.
Mhm.
So my slides are pretty simple today. We have a cottage food industry in Nebraska, just like I'm sure that most states do. Everyone's just a little different, but ours exploded during the pandemic, and it's really nice to see it continue to grow. I am a nutritionist working with Extension. I've been here 25 years and have seen a lot of growth, and it's been very exciting. Next slide, please. So our cottage food laws just were updated in 2019. They were pretty vague before then. And their goal in 2019 was to make it able for people who farm to be able to sell things from their farm that weren't potentially hazardous, things that were shelf stable. And what has happened is it is exploded in the state, with people having all different sorts of really cool things that they want to sell. You know, they can sell it from their home. They can sell it at farmers markets. They can sell these items in the mail across the United States. Any public event, any festival, any craft fair, anything like that. The only thing it says is no indirect sales or no wholesaling. So they can't sell to a restaurant or a grocery store. But we're finding that people are doing quite well with just selling the way they are. Obviously our peak seasons are Christmas and holidays and farmers markets when they start to open. We don't have a limit as to how much you can make. I know in many states around us, they have limits as to, if you sell this much, you need to do this. If you sell this much, you need to do this. Nebraska does not have that limit. Next slide, please. One of the requirements when the bill LB 304 passed here in the state of Nebraska is that they must take a food safety course, a cottage food safety course. At that time, Nebraska didn't have one. And we looked around for a long time to see what was out there. And there are many states that are doing excellent food safety programs. So we talked to Minnesota Extension. They were so kind as to let us adapt their program. They have an excellent program. So we adapted it to the state of Nebraska and we got it started. We talked to the Department of Ag and all of our local health departments, and they said, if it doesn't cost us anything and you're willing to do it, we'll support you. So we went forward. We have a program that's online that people take, and we also offer it live periodically across the state, depending upon what the needs are. The cost is very minimal. It's $25 and the class takes about an hour. As of right now, they only have to take it once. We recommend they take it every 3 years, but once is all they have to take it. We really try to get across the, making sure that you're preparing non-TCS, non-time temperature control for safety foods. So things, baked goods, things like that. The only requirement when they sell their foods is that they have the name of the product and their address and name on the product, so people know where it came from. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we were getting excited about is we have the class translated into Spanish, and we were going to get that up this spring. Well, our class is taken. We worked with the Department of Ag in the last month and 2 local health departments for the biggest counties in the state, and we have completely overhauled our program. So now we're able to reach more people. We're able to make sure things have morphed, things have changed since the bill went into effect. Initially when they're thinking this, well, then now they're thinking this. So working with the people that actually go out and do the licensing, or the people that go out and actually check things out, those are the people that are helping us update our course. And that's been wonderful. We're working on making sure that the course in English is updated in the next few weeks, and then we'll go back and update the course in Spanish, and then that will go live. And then we're working on a landing page. If you've ever gotten into cottage foods and kind of done a Google search for cottage foods, you'd see that lots of places have wonderful web pages on cottage foods. Minnesota is another one of those. Minnesota Extension has wonderful resources on cottage foods. So we're coming up with a web page of our own that we have a landing site. If people have questions, here's a question and answer page. So we have, that is in the making also right now. Things just continue to morph and grow, and we're very excited about that. Next slide, please. So in 2019 in September is when LB 304, the cottage food law, went into effect. So since then, 800 people, 800 producers have registered with the Department of Ag. Over 400 of them have taken our course. And what's important about that is when they sign up to take our course, we get their email address. So what's wonderful is as things change, or if we're offering courses, or we're offering things that might be interesting to them, we just are able to get on the Moodle website and say email all participants, and then we can send out a huge email to 400 people and say, hey, you know, we're doing this, we're doing that. And that's been really good because we want to follow up. We want to make sure that they're succeeding. So we've been following up with, we just had a question and answer webinar, a free webinar, where we presented 10 minutes of information. Here are some changes that have happened since the bill went into effect. And then we spent an hour and a half having the Department of Ag and health departments answer questions about, hey, can I sell this? What about this? What about this? It was incredible. We have another one coming up that is going to be about LLCs and taxes for small business producers, and lots of questions that they ask. So it really has projected us into making sure that what we're offering them is something that is good for them too, and that helps their business. The nice thing with us is that since this course has gone into effect, we have a huge collaboration now. Not only do we work directly with the Department of Ag, which we sort of did in the past, but not really, and local health departments, you know, now we have a group and we're emailing back and forth weekly. Hey, this person asked this question. What do you think about this? Hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to? It's been wonderful for us because our collaboration has made not only the course stronger, but how we go about doing our job a lot stronger too. You know, and now we're working with farmers markets coordinators. We're just starting to work with different populations now. Yesterday, we met with, in our state capital, we have a large Yazidi population. So we're going to start working with them and helping them, you know, making sure that they're able to sell their things at farmers markets and being a small producer. So it's just kind of morphed into, it's not just selling sourdough bread, which, by the way, in 2021 was the most popular type of bread sold at any with any cottage food producer. So just a little bit of trivia. Next slide, please. So why is this important? You know, cottage foods, yeah, somebody's selling cookies out of their house, but it's way bigger than that. So what we're seeing is this huge population of people who are good at what they do, but they just didn't know how to, you know, go beyond, hey, I make great cookies, to, hey, how can I sell these? How can I maybe make some money? How can I maybe go one step further past that? I've discovered that I can make these cookies and I have a market now. Now grocery stores and, you know, and other places, restaurants would like what I'm selling. So it's nice because this is a real specific market. So like I said, sourdough bread was huge last year. You know, somebody can make you a brand new loaf of sourdough bread. They can pull it out of the oven, and within an hour, you can go to their house and pick it up. That doesn't necessarily happen at a grocery store. So this has filled a market need that people wanted. They really weren't going out because of the pandemic. They really wanted the experience of going out without going out. So this market, this cottage food market, kind of filled those needs, which was really great. Not only that, but it also filled a niche that, you know, it's out there, it's in grocery stores, it's in other places, but this was, people wanted to support local foods. They wanted to buy something that they thought was baked for them or made for them. And maybe they had health issues where they needed something that was gluten-free. Maybe they needed something that was low in sugar. Maybe they wanted to buy kolaches because that's their ethnicity. There were all different sorts of things that developed because of this. And so now we see a huge population of people selling everything from local honey to flavored syrups from their trees, all different sorts of things. It's not, again, not just bread and cookies. People are starting to do charcuterie trays of desserts. So they can't sell charcuterie trays with meat on there and cheeses and things like that, but they can sell those kind of trays with desserts. That's kind of a niche place that they can fit in that people are so excited about. It's local, it's fresh, they're supporting local, which is very, very nice. Next slide, please. So it's a win-win for the state because these producers are buying their products locally to produce their products. So they're supporting the local economy. They are selling, most of them are selling local, probably, I don't know, 50, 60% of them are selling at farmers markets. They're selling local. Somebody's coming to their house to pick this up. So they're also putting about $1 million or $1.5 million back into the Nebraska economy from their sales every year, which again is really good. And this is something that's brand new. And this is actually a food industry that has grown because of the pandemic. The nice thing is people can put a face with who's making their food. So, I want to have a great big birthday party for my daughter, and I'd like a very special cake. So instead of calling our local Costco or our local Hy-Vee store, I call Mary, who bakes incredible cakes, and she has a cottage food license. And guess what? She baked me the most incredible, princess cake in the world. Again, very specific, very market related, something that people feel like they're getting the extra bang for their buck for, which is really, really nice. So it does fill a need that has been put forth because of the pandemic. And we don't see it as things start to, we hope, wind down. This is just growing. This industry is still just growing. It's not shrinking at all. Next slide, please. So last fall, we did a survey of all the people that have taken our course, and the results were overwhelming and astounding. This is an industry of very, very inventive people. They come up with the most incredible ideas, and what they sell is very, very exceptional. So what we did find is that almost 100% of the people that are selling cottage foods in the state of Nebraska started during the pandemic. That's pretty impressive. They were at home or they got laid off. They wanted to do something a little different. Their neighbors decided they liked their apple pie. And guess what? That's how it started. Most people spent 20 hours or less working on their cottage food industry, working on what they were doing. They didn't do it full time. A few did do it full time because they were laid off or they were furloughed or they were working at home. A majority, 60% almost, said that they were just trying to supplement their income, which was great. The thing that I thought was really interesting is that 35% stated that it was a hobby and the income was a bonus. And one of the comments that was made really made me laugh because the person wrote, "I'm retired. It's kind of fun to do. I don't have to do, and it keeps me off the streets at night." You know what? That's great. I think that that's wonderful. The age of people who were doing it as a hobby were people that were retired, which kind of makes sense. They do it as something to keep them busy, and they go to farmers markets when they want to, and they don't when they want to, and it works out really, really well for them. And you can see the amount of money, nobody, probably 40% are making $1,000 a year or less, but we do have that group that is doing really, really well, that's making over $5,000 a year selling their products. So that's really good. Next slide, please. So this is kind of, these are some of the comments that the people who actually filled out the survey talked about. And it was all kind of unexpected from my standpoint, because we fill in the food safety part. But these people, it was way more than food safety and being able to bake cookies for them. They got to realize their dream. They got to start a business that made them feel good, that it was their own business and they were their own boss. It was a source of income at a time where they didn't have any. So the feedback that we got was was really, really incredible. Next slide, please. So the part that I think is so exciting is that over 62% are planning on expanding. They're growing their businesses. They're doing, they want to do more this year. Most of the people, again, either sell from their home, they sell from a farmer's market, they sell through social media. Social media has gotten huge now. You get on there and the cookie lady is on there, or the cupcake lady, or in Facebook or Instagram or any of those places. So them having the skills to market themselves has become really big too. So it's very exciting to see this happen. Next slide, please. So when we asked, after they took the course, the food safety course, we asked, what changes did you make? How did the pandemic affect you being a cottage food producer? And since almost 98% of them started during the pandemic, these are things that they said that they changed because they sanitized more, which is great. We found during the pandemic, people started washing their hands more, which is never a bad thing. They changed how they packaged their food. They got very inventive with packaging their food, so people would be able to come get it and it wouldn't be a problem where people were touching anybody else's food. How they delivered their food. People set up a date where people could come to their house, here on Thursday afternoons, you can come get French bread. So they kind of changed how they were getting the food to consumers. They were very creative. So in some cases, because of the supply chain shortages, they had to change up some of their recipes. They had to change how they were doing things. And they rolled with the punches and they made it work, which I thought was very, very good. And again, a greater online presence. That's where people Google, hey, I want to buy sourdough bread in Omaha. Where's a great place to buy sourdough bread? And, Mary comes up because she makes the best sourdough bread. So pretty impressive. Next slide, please. So extension is a big part of supporting these people to make sure that they do well in their business. So it's growing. What we're doing is growing with them. It's kind of a learning experience for all of us. They know that we're a landing spot for questions. So here, the program came out of here in Omaha. So we get questions from all over the state. We get questions from Colorado and Kansas. Hey, I'd like to do this. What do you think? We get questions from Iowa, which is good. We're able to email people who've taken the course and say, so in our state, in 99.9% of our farmers markets, you pay a fee to participate in that farmers market. Well, the university is offering it's called Discovery Days. So 3 times during the summer, they offer a huge kind of farmers market educational experience on our campus. And cottage food producers can actually come and sell without having to pay anything. So they can kind of put their toes in the water and try out the market, which I think is wonderful, because I spoke with one producer last year that was at our first farmers market at the university. And she said, I sold out in an hour. I can't believe this. So next time when I come, that was in June, when I come in July, I'm bringing 3 times the amount I brought. And so it's a way for them to, without having to put out any money, to kind of, see how things are going. Will people buy this? Will they like this? And they can put their cards out and, hey, call me, you can come pick it up at my house. It's a good thing. We're going to have a lawyer talk to this group. We're going to send out an email again in about a month. And I have a lawyer that is going to get on Zoom and talk to cottage food producers about LLCs and about taxes and about all the legal things behind running your own business, because this was a need that they came up with. So I found somebody that would do it for us, which I think is great. So we want them to succeed, and we're here to help them to succeed. We get questions every day. Hey, can I make my question of today was, can I do chocolate ganache as filling? Is that safe? What about cutting up broccoli? Can I do this? So we get a lot of questions, and we're that person that they know now they can call and say, hey, what about X? What about this? Can I do this? And if I don't know the answer, I know who to go to. So we're landing for them to help them succeed, which I think is great. Next slide, please. Or that might be the last slide. So I'm very excited about this business. We've had people that contacted us, just a couple that have decided, I'm starting to get phone calls from restaurants and from grocers, and I'd really like to take my business to the next step. What do I do? Well, guess what? At UNL, we have a food processing center that will help you do that. So we hook them up with them. So we're just very excited. This is just growing and growing. We're in a mode right now. Before Christmas, about November, people started signing up for the class and getting licensed, getting registered before selling Christmas cookies and Christmas things. Now everybody's gearing up for farmers markets. So we have 2 to 3 people a day sign up to take the course, which I think is wonderful. And it's not overwhelming for them. It takes about an hour. It's not super expensive, and they're good to go then. As soon as they pass the course, they print out their certificate, they register with the Department of Ag, and they can start selling cupcakes and cookies this afternoon. So I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Okay.
Go ahead. I didn't know if we had any questions, if we had time for that, or if not, you can definitely email me or whatever works.
Yeah, we are running just a little bit behind, so
Sorry.
we can take questions at the end though if anyone has any. So we'll go on to our next. Thank you very much, Cindy. Oh, there's your contact information. So if anyone would like to contact her. Okay. Now, next we have Jacqueline Pace of Utah State University, Utah Farmers Market Network. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Well, my presentation is called Welcoming and Inclusive Markets, Convening a Community of Practice with Market Managers to Encourage Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So I am the diversity assistant for the Utah Farmers Market Network, which is housed under Utah State University. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about a project that we just wrapped up at the end of last year. Next slide, please. So farmers markets are well known as community gathering spaces. They foster local agriculture and stimulate economic development. But they're also there's research that they're also predominantly white spaces, both in customer base, in staff, in vendors, and that poses a high barrier of entry to BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color who might want to enter that space in some capacity. The Utah's Governor Cox, their office has explained that women, people of color, and LGBTQIA plus communities in Utah have unique historical, socio-cultural, and economic barriers that prevent them from participating fully in our state. So that's an issue that the Utah Farmers Market Network really wanted to address. Diversity here in Utah is on the rise, as it is throughout the nation. And by 2060, it's projected that 1 in 3 Utahns will identify as non-white. This was the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute here in Utah. They aggregated a lot of data that was taken from the last census and have come up with a lot of statistics around what's going on, especially in regards to gender and race in Utah. So this problem is the problem of farmers markets being white spaces, the high barriers of entry, along with the growing population of diversity in Utah is something that we really wanted to address within the network. Next slide, please. So our response was to convene a diversity, equity, and inclusion community of practice. So we used USDA grant funds to convene this community of practice. We had 8 participants from 7 markets all across the state. We convened 1 to 2 times a month between June and November of 2021 for a 90-minute Zoom session. So having things kind of all go online during the pandemic really was helpful for this specific project, because we have, Utah's a large state, and we have farmers markets in every county just about in the state. And so to be able to come together and form a community in an online space was a really beneficial way to do that. We did give 3 to 5 hours of pre-work per session. So the market managers who were involved were given articles, videos, different things that they needed to engage with to really understand the issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion historically and in the context of Utah in specific and farmers markets. So they explored these basic DEI concepts on their own, and then we came together to really flesh things out, to talk about things and figure out how they related to their own markets and their own work. We also gathered data on markets and their organizations. So the participants themselves collected data. It's really just baseline data, and we're hoping to find more funding to continue to do this data gathering. And then myself and my colleague went to each market and collected data at the markets, really basically about who is at the market, what kinds of products are there, and really comparing that to the data from the census on who is living in this community. So to see really where those gaps are the people who are living in the communities that the markets reside in being reflected in customer base, in vendors, in staff, or in products being offered. So really, we wanted to make sure that we had this data gathered in order to create goals and interventions, rather than just kind of having blanket interventions like, here's what you do to get more diversity at your market. So ultimately, we created SMARTY goals, which are a take on SMART goals I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So the SMARTY goals themselves are, they are strategic, measurable, ambitious, realistic, time-bound, and inclusive and equitable. So these goals were specific to each market. They all created their own goals based on the data and based on what they felt they wanted their market to achieve. And so at the end of this community of practice, we began their own individualized DEI strategic plans, which their plan is to continue on over the next few years and complete these DEI goals. Next slide, please. So the results of this project were increased visibility and interest in diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the network. 100% of the participants that in the community of practice showed increased understanding of DEI principles. They reported a more developed DEI frame of reference, both personal and professional. They reported a sense of community that was fostered in the community of practice, both around DEI and just around the experience of being a farmers market manager in Utah. They commented on the appreciation for accountability around doing this equity work in their field. Oftentimes DEI interventions or strategies are just kind of high hopes, where that people have these hopes of doing specific interventions or addressing specific problems, but without that accountability and coming back to those, they often end up falling short. And the participants also spoke about centering DEI in the policies and procedures, both at their markets and in their organizations in general. So we did survey the participants at the end of each session that we came together, and then we did a larger survey at the very end to get an idea of really what the change in knowledge and what their experiences were in participating in the community of practice. One of our participants said, "This was one of the most beneficial things I have signed up for in my 4-year career as a market manager. Not only has it helped me in my current role, but it will help me in years to come as DEI is at the forefront of many initiatives." Next slide, please. So our next steps, the community of practice technically ended in November. We did have funds from the USDA grant. It was a farmers market promotion program grant, and we, in order to help the participants prioritize participation in the community of practice, they were given $1,000 stipend. So it technically ended when the funding runs out next month, but they are no longer being funded to participate in the community of practice, but they have decided to continue it on their own, and it will be self-led. So myself and my colleague are, once the FMPP grant ceases, our positions are done. So we no longer will be there to kind of help the community of practice move along, but we have been doing sort of a gradual release. So we've been in January and February, we had 2 sessions, one in each month. And then next month will be our last co-facilitated session of the community of practice. And the participants will take it over on their own after that. We have designed inclusive welcome signage. So that's what's there to the left. This is your market. And then welcome in the most commonly spoken languages throughout Utah. Those are still drafts, so they're not quite ready to be printed yet, but in the next month, those will be ready to be printed and will be distributed to each of the markets that have participated in the community of practice. We're also working on a market best practices document. So this will be something that will go on the website and be distributed throughout the Utah Farmers Market Network to all the markets in the state that are just basic diversity, equity, and inclusion best practices, things that they should think about and strive for, small things they can do to make sure that they're hitting the mark in DEI. We have a few publications and presentations, including this one. We did present at the Utah Farm and Food Conference, which was also, that's at the Red Acre Farm up in Cedar City. And we also co-convened a farmers market forum during that conference. And we were able to reach a larger piece of the network than just the community of practice participants. We do have a publication that should be out next month with the Outcomes and Impacts Quarterly, which is part of Utah State University that covers different work that's being done at USU. We do have a new FMPP grant proposal in the works. So we are hoping to fund a new community of practice and center DEI within the network in general. So this grant is ending, as I said, next month, but we want to leave with something in place so that this work can continue on. So funding is always an issue for these kind of initiatives. But we do want to, if we do get funding, we do want to begin a new cohort, a new community of practice cohort with the previous participants as mentors to the new cohort. We have started a DEI strategic plan for the network organization itself. So we want to continue work on that. We also want to continue DEI training for the whole network. So the community of practice is something that's people join out of interest. It's not, it's not something that's prescribed to the entire network or that they need to do in order to be part of the network. So we want to continue giving training to people who maybe are not yet ready for the community of practice or don't know that DEI is something that's important for them to center in their market or organization. So in order to get that information out, we want to do some standalone trainings for the network, as well as some vendor DEI training. So we're still working out whether markets would be more interested in doing their own training for vendors or having the network do the training or bring in an outside trainer to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then we also hope to do a community needs assessment for each county to figure out, what are the demographics of each county and where are the markets located? Where could more markets pop up that might reach people who aren't being served? So low-income SNAP recipients, people of color, people who just generally are underserved. We want to make sure that our markets are really meeting their needs as much as possible. Next slide. I'm not sure how we are on time, but if there's any questions, I've been seeing things pop up in the chat, but I haven't been keeping up with that.
Yeah, if you just have a look at the chat, there are people that have, want access to some of your resources.
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay.
Yeah, we do plan to put it on our website. So I can put it's not on there yet, but to just keep that on your radar, I can put the website in the chat, and all of our best practices and everything are all in the next month going to be compiled on there.
That's great. Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. And now we have Willard Humphreys of NCA&T.
Thank you, Katie. So my name is Willard Humphreys III. I'll be presenting on working with farmers using financial benchmarking analysis during COVID-19. The presentation will give a brief introduction, a very brief introduction about how I help farmers use their farm financials to plan and prepare for risk during and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. So before I start talking about farm benchmarking, let me introduce myself. I am the Small Farm Unit Manager, and I work with the North Carolina A&T Cooperative Extension as the Center for Environmental Farming System Small Farm Unit Manager. The 30-acre farm is located in Goldsboro, North Carolina, which is eastern North Carolina, at Cherry Research Farm. And the farm brings together the resources of North Carolina A&T, North Carolina State University, and the NCDA to fulfill our goal of delivering research and demonstrate sustainable production and marketing practice to North Carolina's diverse audiences. So to help with this goal, I am pursuing my MBA to improve my ability to help the farmers create a strong and sustainable business. And my love for agriculture really comes from working with a lot of small farmers growing up. And through education, I enjoy understanding how organisms interact with their environment on a very basic level. I love understanding how people interact with their environment, and I like to facilitate the success of farms. Next slide. So I want to start by talking about the audience that I'm reaching out to work with. So I'm working with North Carolina small and diverse minority farmers and producers operating small acreage businesses. So just because they have a small acreage farm doesn't mean that they're not bringing in a lot of money or that they're struggling in any way. It's truly just based on acreage. To begin the process of creating farm financial records, to start that analysis, I ask each farmer to prepare and gather information about their assets, liabilities, expenses, and income. So a lot of times this brings up questions of, what happens if I don't have that? What happens if I have a drawer full of receipts that maybe include 40% of what I bought last year? How can this work? Will it work? And so that first question of the impact of poor record keeping on the analysis. So it goes over a yearly balance sheet, and we can work with general numbers. If they understand what they bought, if they understand what they brought in, we can work with them. The next question that comes up is, who has access to the information? Just like anyone, they don't want their personal information sent around. They don't want it to be lost and given to people that they don't know. They want to trust the individuals that have access to it. So that's a huge portion of the initial meetings and the initial conversation with these farmers, is that they can trust me, they can trust the people that are holding the ability to use this information for better with them. And then finally, how will the financial analysis help them? This is always one that's important because they don't have to do this. This is their choice to work with us, and they have to be willing to do it. And they want to know why should they do it? What's important about it? So that brings us to the next slide. The purpose. So this conversation is talking about reducing the risk during and after COVID-19. But this is something that's important, in the moment now, and it's been important before. And it's that the farmers want to do it because they have an emotional connection to their business. They have an emotional connection to their livelihood, and they have an emotional connection beyond their farm too. I think most people want to help other farmers succeed. They don't want to see their neighbor's farm fold and turn into something else that's not a farm. And so how we do this is we're working with them on their financial numbers. But why is COVID-19 specifically important to this? And it's that COVID-19 has impacted a lot of farmers by reducing their sales very quickly. The supply chain caused issues, and there is a reduction in sales. And that creates an impact on your income at the end of the year. So you maybe have already produced it and you can't sell it. It drops. So this method of financial benchmarking helps understand the alternatives, which can be extremely difficult without solid records. Fortunate for the beginning farmers, they, fortunate in quotes, they're able to understand the severity of COVID-19 without being impacted on their current business. So it promotes, the first point, promotes record keeping systems. It allows them to not have that drawer full of receipts. It encourages them to enter information throughout the year on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on the time frame that works best for them. So it's there. It raises awareness of the current position of their business. What does the data tell them? The data provides insight on how certain changes will strengthen their business. It shows places that they can improve within their business, so there is less of a risk. And I think most importantly, it shows them what they're doing well, because if they're struggling, even if they're doing well, everyone likes to hear and is motivated by what they're doing well. And as I said, that emotional connection, creating a benchmark for other farmers is important. So through this, we can create a database where other farmers can see what's typical. And that allows the farmers to feel like, I think, they have purpose providing that information. As long as the trust is there, they know that their data is being used for good. And lastly, it provides records when applying for government assistance. So this one's specifically important to COVID-19 because there were some small timeframes for application processes. And if you're a small farmer and need assistance, and you didn't have your finances set up, you're at an even higher risk. You were at a loss that you couldn't apply to them. You're scattering, trying to gather them together. So by creating these records, it provides the ability for them to walk into a situation with records and the analysis and be confident moving forward. So next slide. This slide shows what we use as a base for our farmers. So this is an example, John Doe, and he's running the veggie patch. And we understand who the audience is and what we want. And this is really showing the tools that we utilize. So this is an example of the income spreadsheet, and it shows how the different categories of something like the sale of vegetables can be broken down. And although it seems simple, and I love how simple it is, it takes a lot of habit to enter in the information. So working with these farmers to actually sit down and put receipts into these cells is a majority of the work, but it can help them understand, that May they brought in this case, over $29,000, and then the following year it was $3,000, and how that can impact them moving forward. Like I said, it seems very simple, but carrying it out, it's definitely difficult. And there are a lot of questions when you have various expenses coming in. So another spreadsheet is going to be their expenses. You buy a lot of things and you don't realize how much comes through. It's good to see that total at the end of the month and they realize that they spent maybe too much and it was out of their budget. So next slide. The final slide is the FinPack analysis. So we run the collected data through FinPack and it breaks it down into categories, which helps, it provides a visual document for the farmers. So it's not me just telling them this is what's going on. This is, where you're doing well. This is where you need to look at, changing something up. It breaks it down into their assets and liabilities. And then it provides a ratio analysis, which the farmers and I can work through to help identify strength areas or weakness areas. And this is important to the topic of the conversation, planning and preventing risk in the future for these small, diverse North Carolina farmers, because I personally am passionate about making sure they don't fail. I want to see them succeed. And I know if I can give them any tool that I can to help that, I want to do that. And I want to help spread that idea that having a strong business can really improve their farming techniques. Next slide. I think it's questions. I think we're waiting for questions until the very end, but there's my information if you have any questions or want to know any more about it. And then the Center for Environmental Farming Systems website is also there. And if you work your way through that, we have plenty of resources on the small farm units page that you can utilize as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Kathleen?
Thanks to all the presenters bringing us really outstanding programs as examples and the resource information that we could share with our clients. And particularly thanks to Willard, who has been an excellent employee with our program. And last night we were doing one-on-one financial training with a farm organization at 7 p.m. through 8 p.m. And we do this a year round just to make sure the minority farmers and the small diverse farmers are catching up with what they really need to be aware of to be productive and profitable. Now, we are going to share with you some other type of programs that you may or may not be aware of throughout the country. And I Googled the search and I found some really good resources in the topics offered by colleagues across the country, agencies, that's so on and so forth. So this is just a potpourri of a survey I did very quickly throughout the country, what's going on. And we will have plenty of time for all of you to share your programs, your thoughts. That's the main focus of the open forum. So I won't take more than 3 minutes. The first one I want to show you is the largest information source and the data source organized by USDA. I don't know how many of you use farmers.gov or you even know of farmers.gov, but this is a reliable, validated, a true, not a hoax. I called my colleagues to check it out. I said, isn't this a real? Sometimes you pop up these things and you're not quite sure. USDA has the largest convening resource site, and this is it, farmers.gov. It has all sorts of stuff, people posting information, all the assistance program, how to do things from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you see the data. They also link to the data set that the government data set has a source just called data.gov. And again, those are truly research-based information. I do USDA grants all the time, and our data gets into those data sets, gets into the website like this and become public domain. Many people don't know about this. So when you get a chance to check it out, all the information you share today, you see some value to share with this information linked to this website, just contact the webmaster. If you go onto the website, you will see who to contact. I think that'll be a fantastic service. We as research, extension, and education providers, we can contribute to the farmers.gov. Next slide, please. Next one, many of you may or may not know Nationwide, the insurance thing, that Nationwide is on your side. They actually have a fantastic agriculture and the farm division. I talked to some of the colleagues that I work with, and I validated it with her because she is a nationwide leader position in the farm division. They have a lot of great resources to help farmers and the agribusiness. You know what their incentives are? I thought about it. They're an insurance company, right? They want to make sure that everybody is aware of the type of risks and the kind of protections for farmers or agribusinesses or agriculture enterprises could receive from different kind of coverage, different kind of program, support, assistance. So they look at the banner, they have all kinds of information that's available, and they also release public information about borrowing power, the interest rate, and some of the specialty programs they offer for agriculture producers. Check it out. Nationwide is really, really good collaborator with the farmers and the farming communities. Next slide, please. The National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, many of you are probably a part of it. Some of you are probably not aware of it. They have a whole slew of updated information resources. Just look at the categories, what they cover. Sometimes information could be overwhelming. However, this website is organized in a very easy, user-friendly perspective. It's not too much information that, you get lost in there sometimes. You go onto a website. I absolutely enjoy reading information from this website because for me, conducting research and validating my research information before I release to other people, I want to check it out if other people really care or other people also talk about similar issues. So this website has really good and updated information available for everybody to use. Next slide, please. And then here comes farm management with the University of Wisconsin. I kind of just randomly found it, but I noticed that it's very, very useful and very helpful. They have different strategies, different programs, different type of support, the tools for people to use, and their YouTube video is just very friendly again, and very clear about how information could be shared across different domains with a different field and a different type of operation. So check it out when you get a chance to look at what's available over here. I love what Cindy mentioned. Cindy, didn't you say you guys went to University of Minnesota to check out what they have and then introduce it to Nebraska, right? It's things like that across the state line makes it so important because if we don't have it, well, then who has it? A lot of times we don't know who has it. Then unless somebody tells you, or people like Cindy, you probably look, you ask, and you talk to other people and get that information. And this is our open forums function, is to get everybody to sit down once in a while and share some information. So Both Cindy and Jacqueline, thank you so much for sharing some of these unique features that you guys are able to either use other people's information, but you tailored it to what's needed in Nebraska and Utah. So that's how it works beautifully. Next slide, please. This is from Colorado State. Many of you probably know Colorado State is one of the leaders in the national, local, regional food development strategy. And they have a huge website. The web address is up there. This website was used a part like an element within the E-extension. Katie, am I right about that? They started with the E-extension consortium, and then it just grows so much, and then they are able to create their own domain and hosted through the Colorado Department of Agriculture. And now it's getting onto the national domain because they have all kinds of information, the training, the programs, materials, everything is available for you to use for free. So check it out for different type of trainings they offer. You know, for example, Colorado has a lot of microbreweries. So if your state is thinking about some sort of cottage policies for brewers working with the cheesemakers or yogurt people, or who knows what, things could happen if we know what other people are doing, how they handle different situations. How about a dispute? What happens if we have a dispute issue? What do we need to do? Then things are actually available through different areas. I love this website because I work with this team since they started this whole thing, and it's really, really an honor. And to me, it's so wonderful to see somebody is keep building and keep strengthening the type of information to share with others for free. Next slide, please. And finally, I got to plug my own center a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. Center for Environmental Farming System has been around for almost 30 years now. I joined A&T in 2016, and our program has probably a very unique nature because we incorporated the racial equity in the beginning. That's way before I came here, of course, but the racial equity component has always been the backbone supporting all of our programs. Every single grant we write, the proposal we write, the program we build, we always have a racial equity component in it. So this has been our belief before, the events or whatever, and things change over time. But what we do is always there. It's to make sure the racial equity component is a part of what we do. We don't have to have a separate element. So amazing grazing from the livestock aspect, farm to school, community food strategies focusing on local food policy council, that sort of thing, all the way down to early childcare education. Now we have a new initiative about seniors because I advocated for old folks. I said, you guys take care of the little babies. Now I'm getting old. I need somebody to take care of me. So we actually have a farm to senior care program started this year. Things evolve over time, but every single program we offer, we have resources. So Wheeler mentioned our training material. We also translate our farm training program information to Spanish. So we cater to multilingual audience. And my goal is to translate further to other languages. There are other immigrants. I work with Asian folks a lot. I speak Mandarin, and there are people from Vietnam, from Japan, from Europe. There are all kinds of languages we could translate to. So there are a tremendous opportunity for us to collaborate and share some ideas so we can improve continuously. Next slide, please. So this is where we stop our so-called presentation. I call them storytelling. But let's open up the floor to hear from you all. If you all have any programs or ongoing projects or looking for collaborators, any struggling, anything, anybody would like to share? And the unmute button is right there. You hold control, all right? So feel free to unmute yourself and then just started talking. It's absolutely fine. But please tell us your name. There are 20 people here. It's hard to see everybody on the screen. So Katie, if you close down the panel, let's see everybody and then start our joint discussion, if that's okay with you. Thank you. Any thoughts?
Well, Kathleen, I wanted to share a resource for something that's fairly new out of USDA. I listened to the presentation yesterday, is actually insurance that is specific to small farmers and local food. And it is capped at those that make less than 100,000. They only need to make enough to be considered a farm, and that's the 3 years of over $1,000. And so there is crop insurance for farmers that are now smaller, diversified. And so I can send along that information to share out. I got the slide set from William Ferris at USDA in Raleigh that gave a presentation about it. And so it's a nice tool to have in the toolbox for our smaller farmers.
Thanks, Janelle. And here, Katie, could you put your email in the chat box for everybody who wants to contribute and share their resource with you? Then you can put everything to our website, and then please follow up with an email to our membership so everybody knows it's there. Is that okay with you, Katie? Brian has his hands up, and now coming to Sue. Brian, how do you make yourself so beautiful, black and white, like, that old Western movie kind of a style? How did you do that?
I am so old that I only have black and white. I hit 30 years next month. I'll be 30 years in my work, my career at Ohio. Well, at Ohio State plus a little bit more. Anyway, I just put in the chat. Hello, everybody. I'm at Ohio State, Brian Raisin, and still doing work in food systems, but have shifted a little, teaching on campus. So I haven't been around. I apologize. And I have students in about 15 minutes. But the NAFSN, the North American Food System Network, still thriving and creating and working on certificates that people from anywhere could log on and take, and we're kind of curating them and putting them in one spot so that people can find them. And so I put the link. So by all means, browse around, have a look. There's some good stuff. It's still going strong. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. It's always nice to see you. Many of you, I don't know if you know Brian or not. If you stayed long enough, you definitely can see his face. But Brian started this extension community of practice. Am I right?
Many, many years ago, along with a couple of other real good friends, and yeah.
Good. I'm glad I live up to your expectation. All right, Sue, Mrs. Sue, would you like to share something? Thank you for being here.
Hello, everybody, and thank you again for having us. I always thank Kathleen because we're a statewide nonprofit organization here in Texas, the Texas Center for Local Food. We were founded, we're just 5 years old now, Kathleen, founded by farmers in Texas to really work on the economic piece, to work on the economic viability piece for farmers and look at the entire value chain. Like so many states, we had an organization supporting farmers, helping them be better farmers, and we had groups working on policy, but there wasn't anybody really looking at that middle piece. And as you know, I've been working my life on my diplomacy, so let me just say this. Extension in Texas hasn't really supported historically local and regional food systems to the extent that many of your states have. And we, this last year, initiated our first partnership with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension to build an online learning platform for farmers and farmers market organizers to help them do a better job of marketing. We were able to get funding through USDA's FMPP program, and it's just gone really, really well. There's the URL for it. And I think somebody earlier was talking about financial sustainability. So we have one course that costs $10 if you're not in Texas. These are all, you'll see, they're all pretty low to medium scale production values deliberately so that they'll be approachable for Texas farmers. It's built by Texas farmers and ranchers and farmers market organizers. So I just wanted to share that with you. Because I'm just really proud of it. And I hope that we continue to learn from Extension across the country so that we can help bring along better and more complete Extension support for our small and medium scale farmers, and really of all sizes, our sustainable and organic farmers across Texas. So I just want to say thank you.
I've seen Mrs. Sue in just about every single event. She really dedicated her life to do that. Something might help you, Sue, in Texas is that cottage law. It will be great if you connect with Cindy and then have a discussion, see how Cindy started that in Nebraska. You know, this is a really unique opportunity that Cindy was able to find a good example and actually do it in Nebraska, and got people buying to actually do it. So that I think that for Texas, that'll be very helpful.
Well, and Texas has a cottage food law, and thank you, Kathleen. That's a part of why I asked Cindy how many staff. So I knew when I approach Extension what I'll be selling, which is 2 staff, if I understand correctly, dedicated to this. Mike Morris and I from NCAT wrote a workbook a couple years ago called Beyond Fresh, and that's at the NCAT website. Mike is a very funny writer, so it's an engaging set of worksheets and ways for producers to work their way through creating a cottage food product from their farm. Cindy, that actually brings me to one of my biggest questions for you, which is, do you have any sense of the extent to which the cottage food work in Nebraska is supporting Nebraska farmers? Because I know most of the ones here, probably 90%, I would guess, get their ingredients from the world like everyone else. And of course, it's local food and supports our local economies, and that's totally valuable. But I worry a little bit that we might be misrepresenting unintentionally that it supports farmers in the state. And at least in Texas, it really doesn't, to speak of. Some, but not a lot.
That's a great question. And you are correct. Depending upon in the part of the state you live in, if you live out near Scotts Bluff, or you even live near Kearney, which are smaller areas, then there are local people buying local farmers things. But the majority of our cottage food producers live in 2 counties in the state, and that's on this side. And they are your soccer moms who want to make really cool Christmas cookies. And so from that standpoint, no. But the nice thing is that in a lot of our grocers, our grocery stores, and a lot of our smaller stores, these are things that, you go buy a dozen eggs and there's a picture of Farmer John, because those are his eggs. So we are making some connection, but yeah, the majority probably not. But we're really hoping to try to make that stronger as now that this has grown so big. It's a great question.
Yeah, thank you. And it sounds like just a model national program, especially with the next step, which is food manufacturing, that can get that scale that we need to see. I mean, rural economies, I think, can be rebuilt based on value-added processing and cottage food.
Thanks, Sue and Cindy. Any other thoughts? Anybody else would like to share a few things about what you have or you're looking for? I see Melanie and Frank are here. Melanie, you guys have something really unique going on in the San Francisco Bay Area. Frank, would you like to say a few words about your situation over there, or Melanie?
I could say a few words. Sorry that I accidentally signed in as Frank Kathleen this morning.
Well, you gave it away. You said that I knew it was you. I would think I saw two Frank. I said, I figured one is a Melanie. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Not sure if he walked away from his desk shortly, Kathleen.
It's all right. Melanie, why don't you share a few things about what's going on in the Bay Area? These are the people from California.
Sure. Oh, there he is.
There's Frank.
Frank's a better talker than me, so I'll
Well,
let him.
both of you can share because you have some really exciting stuff going on, right?
Well, we're working on developing some new programming, right? One of the things you see ANR hasn't addressed very well in the Bay Area, at least in the metropolitan Bay Area per se, is addressing the needs of our BIPOC community, like Black, Hispanic, Indigenous people. So Melanie and I put together an initial grant for through a climate change project that was part of a multi-state project with University of Arizona and University of New Mexico, which we were awarded a $10 million grant, of which about 600,000 was as part for extension. And we're rolling out a program called Water Wizards, where we're actually teaching these minority youth the various properties of water, and taking them out to one of the ranches we manage to actually do hands-on learning, both in the classroom and at the ranch, with various scientists doing STEM type work. We also got a second grant to support that through an organization on the East Coast in Tennessee called Chloe, to help support that as well. And as you know, Kathleen, we're working on a couple other grants with Farm to Facts that we're trying to work on, and trying to diversify and really help the minority youth in the Bay Area.
Thanks, Frank. Maybe next time you and Melanie and the other program team members could share some of your ongoing progress and then some expected outcome through your different grant activity. Would that be all right?
That'll be fine. And I think next time we meet, we might have some additional information. We also put together a cluster hire to hire additional advisors, right? Specifically addressing the needs of the BIPOC community in the Bay Area, ranging from youth advisors to community development advisor to senior health and wellness advisor, as well as specialists at UCSF. So hopefully if all of that comes through, I think we'll have a lot to talk about in the next year or so.
Great. And I will also invite our Carolina, the Coast Federation. They cover the whole eastern coastline. Obviously, they have 40 years of experience in the history supporting farmland farmers, especially the BIPOC population, to mitigate the soil degradation issues and all these other issues. I think that will be a fantastic topic. For the rest of you, if you have some other ideas you like to learn about, or you know something about that you want to join us as a presenter, could you please just drop some ideas in the chat box that Katie and I will be happy to organize more open forum as we go along. I know everybody's probably all zoomed out at this point. When we started the open forum, that we were, 3-4 times a year in Zoom is not too bad. But now we've been 24 hours in Zoom for 2 years. I'm not sure you want another Zoom meeting, right? But if the information is important to share, we would love to have you joining us. And Katie is a fantastic staff to work with. So any other thoughts before we close? Everybody's good so far?
I have something that came up in a call yesterday, and it's a group that we're working on in North Carolina. There's urban agriculture agents, and we are getting together because we're so different than, in general, extension is often meant as a rural organization or mindset of that way. So often in an urban area, people don't think extension is worthy of funding and things like that, but yet we are proving them wrong. But what we find is that the university land grant system hasn't caught up necessarily to the urban needs of those small farmers that are all clamoring to either have access to farmland, need help, and how do I farm, and all of those things, but on that small scale. And many of us are like, hey, we don't all want to recreate the wheel. What we need is to be able to collaborate more, but have the support from the university doing research on things that actually work on a scale that's much smaller.
You actually bring up a really interesting point, right? I'm fortunate enough to have because we live really in an interface between urban areas and farmlands and agriculture, right? So I'm fortunate enough to have an individual an urban ag advisor on board, as well as a specialty crops advisor that focus specifically on those small farmers that are on the fringes, on the outskirts of the Bay Area, right? So, and we're constantly looking for someone that might want to collaborate, that has works in that same type of environment. And, that may want to work together and try to work on projects that really help the urban community and those urban farmers, right? And one of the things I'm really focused on is really how do I connect the two, right? I have a really big need within the urban area that kind of varies from the needs from the farmers in the urban area, because many people that actually live here have little to no knowledge of what goes on outside of city limits, so to speak, right? So I'm trying to work on a lot of different projects, things that really kind of tie the two together.
That's a fantastic idea. Katie, could you please write this down? Let's make urban agriculture our next focal point. We got 2 people already volunteered to present. And I'm going to, yes, just write down these people's name right here. I know Frank, I know where to find him. I also know Janelle. So just write down these people's name, Katie. They already volunteered. But I will be happy to bring a few more program directors from the 1890 land grant. I know Southern University has a really outstanding, fantastic urban agriculture food system program. And I know that director really well. I also know somebody from Tennessee Valley, from Kentucky, and Lincoln University. So let's package a show for next round, Katie. Let's focus on urban agriculture and the innovative programs to help all populations. So we've got that pinned down, and I'll move the aquaculture, the coastline management, and other farming practices to our summer or fall. We got a whole year covered. Isn't that nice? Well, great job. Thank you. It's nice to see you. If everybody's doing all right, we're gonna close for today. And this is super exciting. Really nice to see old friends, new friends, and please come back to join us anytime, and then we'll be in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.